Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week, you slags. Yeah, not really much to promote for this one. Thanks to everyone who watched the most recent PBW vs AVW episode. I do have another thing to promote, but that's for at the end of the video, at the intro section. This is the intro section, which will be finished soon. As soon as I say the sentence, we have 5 albums to go through, so let's go through those 5 albums. There, intro over. We begin in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for 156 Silence and their 4th album, Narrative. Now, this is a band I sort of know about. I caught their last album back in 2020. Or was it 2021? I can't remember when it came out. I can't remember the name of the album either, but I remember liking it, and I also really like this one. This is one of my favourite hardcore punk bands from America in quite a while. Besides Dragged Under, I'm giving this one an A. I think this is a band that is continuing to improve upon their craft. I love that this album does try to tell a story of the fallout of a really bad relationship, and the song titles actually sort of rhyme in a way and tell the story, and it all just sounds really good. The performances are really great. I really like the work and dedication put in from everyone involved, and it's very difficult for me to even pick a standout, and that's not because I'm too lazy to look at the band members' names. I like the production a lot as well. I think them being on the label that they're on, and you'll give me a moment to find it. Sharptone. Oh yeah, of course, the Sharptone. They're a really good label for this particularly heavy style of hardcore. Yeah, that's a pretty good label for them to be on. The producer they got, whoever it was, did a fantastic job. Structurally, it's great too. I love how it caps off the story with a very well done 8.5-minute song. It's probably a little bit longer than that, but I remember it being 8 minutes at least. The closing track. Without wasting any time, it ties up the story really well, has a lot of great callbacks. I just love a wee little concept album just wrapped up nice and neat, and this is that example to a goddamn T. Seriously, go and find this one out. If you've even heard vaguely anything passingly good about 156 Silence, it's probably because that good stuff came out of my mouth. I should have phrased that a bit differently, but this is a really good band. I'm very excited to see what the future holds for them, and this is their 4th album, so, you know, they're not the oldest band I've covered, but they've been around long enough to put out 4 albums, so I'm very excited to see what they do drop next. Next we go to Quincy, Massachusetts for Dropkick Murphys and their 11th album, This Machine Still Kills Fascists. This is their first album since last year's Turn Up That Dial, which was an album I quite liked. This album is very inspired by the lost lyrics of Woody Guthrie, who was a famous political folk song performer back in the day, best known for the phrase This Machine Kills Fascists being on his guitar. And this album gets a B+. I liked a lot of the elements for it, and I think the more folky style really works for Dropkick Murphys. It is their first full acoustic album too, and it's not like they did acoustic versions of old songs. Now, these are new songs just with an acoustic edge, but they still got a very, gruff punk feel to it, which I do appreciate. I think they could have easily just gone straight for the melody with the acoustic stuff, which is why I don't typically cover acoustic style things, but I like that they tried to stay true to what Woody Guthrie represented, and I say that even though I've never listened to Woody Guthrie in my entire life. I just know who he is, and for the record, I knew who he was before this album came out. I just didn't, didn't really listen to him much, but it feels like I'm listening to him, because again, these are his unused lyrics about the political climate, and a lot of that shit is still fucking very relevant today, weirdly enough, and Woody's been dead for 55 years, so that should tell you all you know. All you need to know. Jesus. The performances are great. This is their first album without Al Barr, but the reason is he has to take a sabbatical to look after his mum, so on the off chance that Al Barr or his mum are watching this, get well soon. Yeah, Ken Casey mostly takes over vocal duties, and he's still a great vocalist. The band still fucking go. They're all great together. I love their chemistry. I love the energy they put out. They're clearly just having a fun time all together. Yeah, instrumentally wise I've already covered. It's, again, a bit more laid back, but still very heavy what it needs to be. Very intelligently produced as well, just relying quite nicely on the acoustic elements to carry it through, and it does. And it's their, I think it was also self-produced, again. Oh no, it doesn't say. It does not say. Unless it does say and I'm just stupid. Oh yeah. Ted Hutt. Okay, yeah, they worked with him again. And they probably produced a little bit of it themselves because they've done that before. But yeah, this album is a really, really good album. And I would have expected nothing less for an album that came out so soon after the last one. And again, I'm very, very much hoping that Al Barr's mum recovers soon. But this was a really good album still from Dropkick Murphys, who are just a really good band. Next we go to New York City, New York for Pretty Sick with their full-length debut, Makes Me Sick, Makes Me Smile. This is a band who I sort of added very last minute because of, like, there was an album which I think was supposed to have come out last week, last weekend, that was pushed back a little bit, and I don't know when I'll be able to get around to that one. Hopefully for this weekend's stuff of listening, I don't really know. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Pretty Sick, and the only A+ grade in this entire episode. I felt quite a lot of this album. Also, for the cover, I'm mainly using a picture of the band because the other two alternatives are just someone throwing up and the lead singer in a very sort of provocative position getting the words written on ahead of the album title. I just didn't want to use either of those because even though I don't really care about monetizing my content, I didn't really want to run that risk, or just I also just didn't want anyone to see someone throwing up. It's just fucking disgusting. It's not my thing, you know. It's just not my thing. But yeah, this album was really fucking great. I love the work put in from all the band members, especially lead singer Sabrina Fuentes, who I think is also the guitarist or one of the guitarists. She puts in so much personality and so much emotion into her vocals as well, and so much aggression at times too. The riffs are very inventive, very dark, and hit very hard when need be. The lyrical themes about depression and the last gasps of teenage life before you move to adulthood. Fuck, they ring true for me as a 30-year-old straight white man. God. What else is there? The production is really good too. I love the fuzz and the tone of everything that it takes, and the structuring, it just builds it quite nicely. It doesn't really drag all that much either. It can, maybe in tiny doses, but it does reach its point very, very quickly, and even the time between, sorry for slowly rolling up my sleeve there, roll that back down, even in the time between, it's still got a lot of really good heavy-hitting shit for it. So, I'd recommend going out and finding this one. It's really good, and this is their debut too, so I've got nothing but high hopes for whatever they drop next. Next we go to Des Moines, Iowa for Slipknot and their 7th album, The End So Far. Now, I don't really have to talk much about Slipknot, everyone knows who Slipknot is. Oh, I should have pointed out the fucking genres for the other bands as well. Dropkick Murphys doing a folk punk thing, 156 Silence doing a hardcore punk thing, Pretty Sick doing an indie sort of garage punk thing. There we go. Slipknot doing a very heavy metal, new metal, alternative metal, groove metal thing. And this album also gets an A. It's their last one, a Roadrunner, and while I don't think it's quite as hard as We Are Not Your Kind does, I still really liked it. I like that it felt like it was an album that had a lot of unused material from All Hope Is Gone, which I still think is the band's most underrated album. So I'm glad that they got to carry a lot of that on, you know, and this time the world was a bit more ready for them to experiment with it, like 14 years after All Hope Is Gone came out. God, weird to think that. I got that. It was my 16th, like, Christmas present as well. Not my 16th overall, like, you know, I turned 16 that year when it came out. Very, very weird to think that that's when that happened. But yeah, Slipknot is still a fantastic band. It's their first one with Michael Pfaff as an official member on custom percussion. He does a great job. Corey Taylor is still a great vocalist. Jim Root is still a fantastic guitarist. Alessandro Venturella is still a great bassist. The drum work from Jay Weinberg is phenomenal. This is some of Sid Wilson's best turntable work in my opinion too. So yeah, the instrumental work is great, as are the performances. Again, Corey Taylor just fucking nails it. The lyrical themes are the usual stuff from them too. Themes of violence, psychosis, nihilism, love, the music industry, politics. It is pretty much all that they do, but it's what they do greatly, and I think that's my main sort of problem with the album, is that it's another Slipknot album. You know, it's just more of what they do, and I'm perfectly fine with more of what they do. It's, you know, it's really good. Just keep doing what they do. And this is their last album on Roadrunner 2, so it's probably their last one with... Well, I was going to say it's their last one with Joe Barresi, but he didn't work on their last album either. So he did mixing for it, but not as an official producer, but which he was for this one, alongside the band themselves. And yeah, the production's still great. The structuring's really good too. Again, maybe it can teeny tiny draggy a little bitty, but it's still very, very well paced and absolutely furious when it needs to be. It's still absolutely heavy as you like, but with more melodic and more experimentation and weirdness tried, which is not something that's new to Slipknot or specific to them. But it's more of a focus on The End So Far, which I do appreciate that. So, yeah, if you want to listen to a great Slipknot album, just listen to literally any of them. But, yeah, go listen to The End So Far. It's pretty great, and I can't wait to see if they do carry on after leaving Roadrunner. I'd love to see where they wind up. And finally, we go to Buffalo, New York for Until I Wake with their first full-length album, Inside My Head. So, generic name? generic name for title, album title too. So generic band name, generic album title. This is my first album by them, and after sort of being fairly hyped by the singles going into this album gets the lowest grade of this episode. It's a C minus. It's so crushingly generic and occasionally just tasteless and boring. So let's get through the issues I have with this album. So the instrumental work is very repetitive and a bit too melodic for my liking. This is a post-hardcore leaning metalcore band, by the way. So they pick a winning style and they're boring as hell with it in terms of instrumentation. The lyrics are way too try-hard. Like, they try to tell a narrative of some sort, but it just comes off as a bit creepy and a bit desperate at points. So yeah, mates, take some lessons from 156 Islands. They'll tell you to write a fucking narrative correctly. So lyrics are really, really bad. The performances are not terrible. The lead singer's got a really good quality to his clean singing and especially his screaming, which I wish he would have done more. The problem is that the band are a bit too interested in trying to sound a bit too much like Motionless in White, and there's only one of those, so don't copy them, maybe. I've got nothing wrong with Motionless in White. I like Motionless in White. I just don't want every band to sound like Motionless in White. The production embellishes a whole lot and really ruins a lot of the sound. It just makes a lot of the riff work feel very toothless, for lack of a better term, and very incohesive. And structurally wise, it's a very middling pace until the last song, Marching Forward, which is my favourite song on the album, and the first song of 13 on the album, by the way, that they actually bother trying anything new. It's such a dull-paced album. It should be a D+, shouldn't it? But no, I'm sticking with C- because it is a debut. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and they better not fucking waste it, because I was not impressed by this one. But, you know, they do have a chance to make it right. They just need to sound like themselves, and they're on Fearless. How do you fuck up a debut metalcore album from a debuting band on fucking Fearless Records, one of the premier hardcore metalcore labels on the planet today? How do you mess that up? Seriously. I'll about do it for this one, though. The next thing I'll see you for will be tonight, sort of, because I will be posting up the full TMNT Shredder's Revenge Let's Play, as in I'll be unprivating it and putting it up on public, so you can go and watch that at your leisure. It's only like 2.5 hours long total, maybe. There's like only one cut I made. There's only 5 episodes, so, well, 5 parts, so yeah, that shouldn't take you long either. Next thing after that will be tomorrow night, though. I will be streaming my next Let's Play, which is Turnip Boy Commits Tax Fraud, or Tax Evasion. It was tax something. So I'm looking forward to playing that, because I have no idea what the hell I'm going to be getting into. So I'll see you all for that. Next video likely be on not Sunday, because there's not a Fight of the Night review this week, so maybe next episode of this, or whenever I put up the PPW vs AVW VODs from Twitch. It's whatever pops up first, but I'll likely see you multiple times over the weekend for the various shit I'll be doing. So that's for then. As for now, as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. But most recommended, all of them except for Until I Wake's album, if I'm being honest. But most recommended, definitely in order from most to sort of least. I should do this a bit more often. Pretty Sick, 156 Islands, Slipknot, Dropkick Murphys, Until I Wake definitely at the bottom. So that's the order. Now I will do my intro. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.